Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black and Making It. Black artists making it happen here with Tishelle Bearden.
And Ayvaunn Penn.
We are so excited to have here with us today none other than Camille A. Brown, director and choreographer of For Colored Girls, currently running on Broadway. Camille, how are you doing today?
I'm good. So honored to speak with both of you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with us. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with our first question.
Great.
So for those who have not seen For Colored Girls, would you please give us a quick summary of what the show is about?
Yes, the show is about Black women coming together in order to share space, to be vulnerable with each other, to share our pain, our struggles, our joys, our sadness, our triumphs. And it's a series of poems written by Ndajake Shange that was first done on in California as like a poetry at women's bars. And then it eventually transferred to Broadway, where it was at the Booth Theater starting in 1976. And now this is the first revival in over 40 years that it's returning to Broadway. And we are back at the Booth Theater, which is very, very exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's so special.
Yes, it's full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much for that little history that goes with that too. But on a more personal level, for you as a Black woman, what does For Colored Girls mean to you?
Yes. So my mom always used to tell me, don't let anyone ever take your stuff away. I mean, I say she used to tell me, but she still tells me this to this day. And I always found that it was about every time that I felt down or felt like I wanted to give up, it was about showing perseverance and telling me to keep going. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that she told me that she got it from seeing the show on Broadway in the 70s. So I feel like this show has been a part of the fabric of who I am since forever, since as early as I can remember being alive. So for me to be invited to dive into Ndajake's choreo poem is something that I feel so honored and special. And we talk about circles. It's a full circle moment for me, you know, living with it and not really necessarily knowing the connection and now understanding the connection is really lovely. And the idea of Ndajake's choreo poem where dance and movement and text coexist is something that I, as a choreographer and director, just love and thrive in. So I was really honored to dive into it.
Well, we would like to congratulate you on becoming the first Black woman to direct and choreograph a Broadway show in over 65 years. How does it feel?
Yeah, I have a lot of emotions behind it. You know, the first question is, why did it take so long? You know, and I think Katherine Dunham was the first Black woman to direct and choreograph a show. And, you know, when you think that it's been over 65 years, it's been 67 years. I'm 42 years old, so I wasn't even born when that happened. So it automatically makes it that it's not just about you. It's not just about your story and your walk. Yes, it is something that's very personal, but it's also something that's spiritual too. It's an opportunity for another Black woman's voice through direction and choreography to speak on a Broadway stage, and that hasn't happened in over 6 decades. So to me, I take that as something that's very important to me, and it just gives me an opportunity to lift up Katherine Dunham and those trailblazing women who really paved the way for all of us. And just like I was a young Black girl looking at reflections of myself through Diane McIntyre and Marlise Yerby, it's my hope that young Black girls can look and go, wow, I can dance, I can choreograph, and I can direct, and I can do all of those at the same time. So it's a moment.
Yes, well, you kind of tapped into our next question here, and that was, did you feel it took too long to get to this place? And so I'll kind of do a spin off of that. What do you think influenced it taking this long, or what factors do you think played into that?
I don't know. I don't think that's a question for me to answer. I think that's for other people, you know?
True.
So, you know, I think it's just hopefully this moment is a moment of celebration, but it also challenges us to ask the question, why did it take so long? Catherine Dunham directed and choreographed 3 Broadway shows, and then it took 65 years for that to happen again. So that's a question that I can't answer and shouldn't feel a responsibility to answer.
Very true. Absolutely.
Do you feel that Broadway is finally making diversity an essential staple rather than a trend or a box to check off?
I think we are going to continue to see. I think it's amazing to see so many Black playwrights have a space on Broadway during this season. I think it's an amazing moment. I would like to personally see more Black female directors and choreographers on the Broadway stage. And now I think it's continuing to challenge the conversation. How can we, as you say, not make this a trend? You know, we just opened back up in the fall, so everything is very new. So let's see what next season happens, and let's see what next season and next season, 5 years from now. So we just have to keep challenging everyone to keep being expansive and letting bold voices come in, and different voices and dimensional voices.
Yes, continuing to challenge. It seems that's the essential part of making sure that we make that progress. So with For Colored Girls, recently being at the Public Theater in 2019 with you as choreographer, what is the creative process like moving the show from off-Broadway to Broadway with you now as both director and choreographer?
Yeah, well, a director, it's important for a director to have their own vision, own way of storytelling, own entry point. So as the director of this, transferring it from 2019, where I was the choreographer, now I'm in charge of everything, the collaboration with the creative team, how I want things to look, feel, sound, move, everything. So I was at that. I was for the Broadway show. It was at the helm of all of that. So I had a lot of fun, and I think I said this, but COVID was, during that time when we were off, was an opportunity for me to really have a process, because this was supposed to move, I think, to spring 2020. I think this was supposed to be on Broadway, and I was not ready. Just because, like I said, there's a transition between choreographer to director choreographer. And I was like fearful because I just wasn't ready. I hadn't like landed on my vision and what I wanted to say. And then COVID happened and everything stopped. And even though there were a lot of destructive things that happened to theater, definitely, it gave me a personal opportunity to have a process and to dive in and figure out what the story was that I wanted to say with the work.
So many of the poems in For Colored Girls explore very weighty, graphic subject matter, yet this production manages to bring moments of levity. Was this a choice that was made on the outset, or did these moments arise organically in the rehearsal process?
Yes, no, this was a definite choice. I mean, you know, I did not want us to be, Black women to be seen as victims. So the opening has a sense of empowerment, even though the actual text starts with dark phrases and this sense of Black women feeling lost, feeling like we've gone crazy, moving inside of the world, being challenged. We were not born like that. We had Black Girl Magic was with us from the beginning, and it was the world that made us challenge who we are. So I wanted to place women, Black women, in a space of empowerment. And then of course we go through our obstacles, and people see throughout the play the challenges of being a Black woman at times. But from the onset, it was important for me to interweave the joy inside of it. Yes, there is the pain, but there's also the joy. There's always a balance, and we are dimensional.
Ooh, yes, dimensional. Amen for dimensional. Black women are often squeezed into these little boxes. So thank you so much for making sure to bring that joy into the space as well. And moving through your creative process with your cast, were there any things that you learned from them that will always stay with you?
Oh man, they continued to remind me that I can do this. I think because I'm a choreographer in the dance world, and for me to now be directing and choreographing, some people would think, oh, well, she's never directed before. And my friends, my family, and the company reminded me that I've had my own company in the dance world as director and choreographer for over 15 years. So even though this is a different arena and I'm going to be experiencing different challenges, it still doesn't mean that I haven't done this before. So it was really, they really helped to encourage me to trust my instincts and to move forward. And I think us creating that safe space for each other is something that I truly appreciate. And just there, I mean, we were learning so much about the poems themselves. I think the disadvantage that we have is that Ndjake is no longer here. So when we get to a line that we don't necessarily understand, we can't go to her and ask, well, what does this mean? Mm-hmm. So we have to find out for our own selves what the meaning of the poems are truly saying. And of course, there have been thesis statements written about the title alone, but I think along with the academia of it, it also has to be like a personal spiritual connection that you have to the poems. So it was beautiful to see the women really discover who they were inside of them. So that's what is a strong takeaway for me.
That's wonderful. What would you say Black and Making It to you means?
Black and Making It. It's the perseverance, it's the climb, it's the no matter what, we still make it. No matter what is put in our way, we move it. We have the strength, we have the power, individually, collectively. We're still here. We're still persevering.
We are still here. That's a, as they say in the Black church, that's a shout moment right there. Still here. So in recent years, we have seen the advent of Black theater nights for various shows, both on Broadway and off Broadway. And why is it important for the Black community to engage with and support theater?
Well, theater that is for us, by us, I think it's important for the Black community to see that, but I think it's also important for the theater community to see other Black people supporting the Black people that are putting this kind of art out. So how can we continue to expand, not just Black Theater Night, Black Theater Week, Black theater throughout the entire season, all Black audiences? How can we continue to challenge what that is? And I think Black Theater Night is a beautiful thing, and it's been done, and we're doing activities that are connected to that kind of space too. But I think it's important for us to be present, to lift each other up, and for others to see that kind of support that we have for each other.
Wonderful. I think you kind of answered the next question, but if you'd like to go further, what value does theater hold for the Black community within going off of what you were just talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it gives it gives us an opportunity to see ourselves. And for me, speaking about Ndjake Shange's work, this is written by a Black woman, and it is her stories. It is our stories. It is timeless. It is universal. It speaks to the now. It speaks to the history. It speaks to the herstory. It speaks to everything. So that there's great power and strength in that, and it creates movement.
So congratulations yet again on for Colored Girls earning 7 Tony nominations.
7, yes.
Moments of applause, including Best Revival of a Play, Best Direction, Best Choreography. And I'm sure this has to be absolutely an amazing feeling, but growing up and as you've moved through your work in dance and directing and everything, did you ever imagine yourself being here in this moment?
No, because before, Catherine Dunham had did it 65 years ago, and I'm 42, and I wasn't even born when that happened. So to even think that this was an opportunity that I could even have was kind of unimaginable. So to be in this position, having my Broadway debut as a director and choreographer, but then also being acknowledged in this way for my direction and my choreography. And I used to watch the Tony. My mom and I still watch the Tonys, but I used to watch it when I was a kid. My mom introduced me to musical theater. So there's been a tremendous connection that I've had with musical theater ever since I've been a child. So for it to be the trajectory that it is, where I was a little girl looking at the Tonys to now being, being nominated for direction and choreography is just, I mean, I think I'm still, it hasn't even been a week, so I think I'm still in shock about the whole thing. So I haven't fully processed it yet, but really, really honored.
That's great. What advice do you have for early career choreographers aspiring to work on Broadway and other major platforms?
Have your team, your village around you. You know, I have had an army around me, protecting me, encouraging me, building me up. You know, when I have doubts, they were there to come in and say, no, Camille, you can do this. They give me critical, honest feedback. You know, I don't want to be around a bunch of people that just tell me, yes, 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 it's great, it's amazing all the time. Like, I want to be challenged inside of that circle with love, though. It doesn't have to be a mean critique. Don't have to hurt my feelings, but, you know, it has to be honest. But I would say that's coming up. I mean, there are a lot of things that I could say, but today what's coming up for me is like, make sure you have your tribe, that support system around you that's going to be there with the highs and the lows. That's the thing that's important too. A lot of times we see the success, but we don't see the climb. We don't see how much the person, how much it took for that person to move through the space in order to get to the yes.
Yes, yes.
That's beautiful. Well, we would like to say one last thank you, Camille. Future choreographers, I'm a young choreographer myself, and other choreographers out there, we look up to you. And I just thank you so much for pouring just this little bit into us. And yeah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I can't wait to see your work.
Yay!
Yay!
Yes, and one last thank you from me too. You should know that I teach about you in my classes. So Tashelle is actually one of my students, but I definitely make sure that our theater students know and understand that our theater, though historically could look monochromatic, is not, and to make sure that our students, our young artists that we're about to send out into the world, are knowledgeable of the fullness and the richness and the depth of what is the world of theater. So thank you so much for the work that you are doing. Thank you for the work that you have done. And thank you for all that is to come. And thank you again for sharing your time with us. Before we go, do you have any last things to share? How can our followers keep up with you and what you're up to?
Yes. Well, I just want to thank you for helping to make me visible. I think it's easy because there aren't a lot of us working in the theater as Black. Well, you know what? There are a lot of Black female directors and a lot of Black female choreographers. But in terms of whether we are seen or not, that is the argument. So I just want to thank you for making me visible to your students, because it is hard sometimes as a Black woman, feeling invisible sometimes, and that you are not seen. So thank you for seeing me, and thank you for providing the space that I can be seen by your students. And I can be, you can find out things about me on CamilleAbrown.org. And we have extended our show. Our initial closing was May 22nd, but now we are going to be going until June 5th. So one step at a time. I think just to continue to encourage people to come out. I think it's important for Black women to see that we have 7 Black beautiful women on stage doing it on a Broadway stage every night, 8 shows a week. And we would love to have other Black women coming out and supporting that. Black men coming, supporting that, Black people, everybody. Just it's so important for us to see ourselves and for us to see that we are being seen by by each other.
That makes me so excited. That makes me so excited. So Camille, we're going to say goodbye to our audience now, but if you'll hang out just momentarily, but to all of those with Black and Making It, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.